Hello and welcome to today's video on Nmap and directory enumeration. We're going to be demonstrating this using the Mr. Robot CTF, which will allow us to deep dive into how to use Nmap to scan targets, see which hosts are up, and conduct directory enumeration using tools like Gobuster. So I'm going to start by trying to find where my Mr. Robot CTF is being hosted. I've got a subnet here. This is my subnet. And there's a possibility for 256 devices on here. So when you do nmap-sn, it basically says ping scan this. So you could put an individual IP address, like 0.8, that would just ping scan 0.8 and see if it's up. I'm going to do 0/24. This doesn't always work. Sometimes ping packets or ICMP can be dropped, especially by modern Windows machines. So as you can see, it has detected 10.0.267 and 10.0.2.15. This one is just a typical one that's always there. So we'll see what my IP address is quickly using ifconfig. This is mine, so this means that this is our target. But we're going to get going now. We're going to put all three of these into a file, and we're going to conduct a file against every single one we found. So I'm going to do nano targets.txt 10.0.2.3, 10.0.2.15. I've put them all in a file now that we've scanned a subnet of devices, as if we don't know which one of these is our target, which ones are. Now I'm going to do nmap-il. This basically says pass an input list of targets as I created here in targets. So it will scan multiple IP addresses. And we're going to use this to conduct a basic port scan. We just want to know which ports are open for now on all of these devices. And we're going to say -on. We want to write it in normal format. So this says input list targets.txt. This says check every single port, and this one says write it in normal format to a file called result.txt. Run. It's going to take a little while. So the scan has done over all the targets. The bottom target 10.0.2.15, which is my IP address, was taking so long that I just quit it. There's nothing interesting on it. But as you can see, that this is just the one that's always up. Nothing interesting. We've found some interesting things here though. For some reason it's told us port 22 is closed. Port 80 is open. 443 is open. So now we want to do a bit more investigation into 10.0.2.67. And I'm going to open a notes file, because that's what I always do during enumeration. Whoops. Let's just remove notes quickly. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste this in because we've got this information. And we're going to run a major scan against this machine, essentially. I'm also going to put... So now we're going to run a proper scan against 10.0. These are my default flags, and I'm going to explain to you one by one what they mean. Let me just add 443 and change the IP address to our IP address that we need. So my default flags. This -sc means scan with default scripts. It just means run default scripts. Scripts are extra pieces written in either Perl or Ruby. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're written as .nse, and they conduct basic scans against the target. Things that aren't just ports. So for example, port 21, it might check for vulnerabilities. So that scans basic scripts. This says identify the service version. Instead of just saying service, it also tells you the version of the service, which is very useful in the case of a vulnerable FTP or something like that. Now -p 2080 and 443 you can figure out just mean scan these ports. These are the ones we found could be of interest. We'll see what happens with this. Dash aggressive. So dash A just means run an aggressive scan against this target. It basically means give it your all. So it's an aggressive scan. Dash SS with a capital S afterwards means conduct a TCP SYN scan. This can also be known as a half scan, and basically it's very stealthy, meaning it's harder to identify because Nmap sends a SYN synchronized packet to the target port. It should be brushed up on your networking for this video. If not, please Google what these mean. Then, if the port is open, the target responds with a SYN/ACK, synchronize and acknowledge the packet. If the port is closed, the target responds with an RST, which basically means reset. If Nmap receives a SYN/ACK scan, it immediately sends an RST to close the connection before it fully opens, meaning that it can be stealthier when there are intrusion detection systems, so it's always good to put on. -T5. -T specifies how fast you want it to be, and by putting 5 there, you choose the fastest scan. In most cases, you want it to be slower, so that it's less detectable, and so it's more accurate. But today I'm just going to put -T5. -VV, we can change this to V5. This is basically the same. It says I want verbose at the max. You can also put the number of V's of verbose up to 5, that works too. And --open only tells me about open ports because I might not care about closed or filtered ports, but filtered ports can sometimes be useful. -on, as we covered a minute ago, writes it to an output normal file, so a txt, and then this just says the IP address. So I'm going to click run and see what happens. Got a lot of verbose going on here. That's because I specified maximum. Seems to have discovered port 80 and 443, so I'm guessing port 22 might not actually be open, which is the standard SSH. It's initiating NSE, so it's initiating default scripts here. We must nearly be done. And we're done. Wow, that was quick. So down here we can see it's used traceroute to see how many hops. 1 hop. That means it's on the same subnet as me, as we already knew. No surprise there. Let's scroll up. So we have detailed information about the ports now. We've got port 80, which is open, service HTTP, and it gives us the reason. It's told us the reason why it's open, which is SYN/ACK, meaning it responded with SYN/ACK. This is how long it took to get back, and this is the version, so it's Apache HTTPD, not a specific version today. So we can see that we've got an Apache server on port 80. Let's make a note. We don't have much detail about the Apache, so we're just going to scroll down, and 443 looks pretty much the same. It's just using SSL instead. As you would know, port 443 is Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure. So port 443, I'm just making some notes. Apache running seems to be the SSL version. So I reckon they're both exactly the same. I don't think there's any discrepancies in the content of the site whatsoever. What I do think though, as I can see here, is that this is using SSL and this is standard unencrypted data. So now let's take a look, using directory enumeration, what we can do to these. So that's the end of part 1 on Nmap. Let's move on to directory enumeration and take a deeper look. Well guys, this is part 2 of the video, and welcome to directory enumeration, another very cool topic in pentesting. So now that we've covered how to scan with Nmap in great detail, and established that these 2 ports are running, one of which is using SSL, we're going to do a little bit of Gobuster, but first we're going to conduct some manual enumeration. So before we get onto the good stuff of Gobuster, we have to do the boring manual enumeration. Let's get going. So I've booted up my Firefox, and let's go to 10.0. This just means HTTP. So it's just loading. Okay, we've got something here. Seems to be some sort of Linux machine. Well, we seem to have some sort of, like, it's automating this. So I'm guessing there's nothing here at the moment. If you've come for a reason, you've come for a reason. You may not be able to explain it yet, but there's a part that's exhausted in the world. Decides where you work, who you see, and how you empty. And we've just got some commands that we can execute. This is a very basic example, Mr. Robot CTF, but it's an absolute classic example. So let's see what that does. Oh, it made a noise.
You are not free. You are owned. Owned by your job. Owned by the 1% of the 1%. Owned by death. Your website. Between June 18th and 40th, we will take back over $100,000 and give it to you. Live on Twitch. Can delete the debt that holds you hostage.
As you can see, we're back here. So all it means is that there's just a load of preset commands here. But I want to know what else is on the server. And I'll tell you that these commands don't really do a lot. So here is a typical Gobuster. It's remembered it from the last time I used it. So let's just explain how this works. We do Gobuster and we specify that we want to use directory enumeration. That's with dir. -u specifies the URL of the target. So our URL is this. As I said, HTTPS will be running exactly the same stuff. So it's easier to target HTTP. There's less security. And -w specifies a word list to use. In my case, I'm using this one as it's pretty good. T specifies threads. In this circumstance, I'm going to say 50 to play it safe, meaning that it can execute 50 brute forces simultaneously. -r means redirect. So if it gets a 301, it means it redirects to status 200, so that's much better. And -x means we want extensions. So instead of just the files, we want extensions like php. I'm also going to put txt. So these are just to add on the end of it. Instead of just like hello, it will also try hello.txt. Or command, it will also try command.php. So let's click run and see what happens. And this could take quite a while. It is taking a while. So in this situation, it's best to use a smaller word list, I think. So there's a lot of word lists on your Kali machine by default. I'm just going to use /derb/big. You can read into these word lists. I'm also going to increase threads to 70 to make it faster. And it's running. So as you can see, it's still running, but we've come out with directories like admin, admin, audio, atom. And we're not going to go into them because that's not the point of this video. The point is to show you directory enumeration with Gobuster after a bit of manual enumeration. But as you can see, when it says status 403, it means it's forbidden and we can't access that. If it says status 200, then that's not forbidden, and that's really good news. It's found us a file we can access. So say admin, status 200, that might supposed to be secret. We've busted it with Gobuster. Blog down there, 403, we can't access that. But all of these green ones we can, and you might occasionally come across something which they don't want you to see, but you find anyway. So directory enumeration is crucial for discovering hidden endpoints, files that they don't intend you to see. And whilst we're not going to delve into what's in these files today, I hope this video has given you an overview of Nmap, how it can be used, and Gobuster, how it can be used, and basically an idea of how to use these flags, because that's the core way of using Gobuster. And I hope this has helped. If you like this, please like and subscribe to support our channel.